Hi there, everyone. Thank you for joining us for another edition of the Phoenix Phenomenon. This is where we focus on the transformational process of writing a book and uncovering the incredible journeys that authors and illustrators go on to bring the books to life that you know and love. So today I am your host, obviously. I'm ghostwriter Roxanne McCarty-O'Kane, and today I'm joined by the amazing Kym Cousins. So thank you so much for joining us, Kym. Lovely to see you.
Oh, thanks, Roxanne. Thanks for inviting me along, and I'm really looking forward to our session.
Excellent. No, that's wonderful. So just to clue you all up, all of you viewers and listeners at home, Kym Cousins is best known for her passion in the areas of sales, marketing, communication and leadership. She is the owner and founder of Enablement, which is a national training and coaching consultancy based on Queensland's Sunshine Coast. One of the best places to be, if you ask me. She has been a senior leader at some of Australia's most recognisable global IT brands and also managed high-performance sales teams, enabled partner and alliance organisations to build businesses and vendor brand presence, and also developed hugely successful salespeople through her mentorship and coaching who have achieved personal and career success with her tools in their tool belt. So more recently, Kym also added the title of author to her list of credentials when she released her book, Selling with Heart. So yeah, welcome, Kym. I mean, that's a pretty awesome bio right there, if you ask me.
Well, thanks for covering everything, Roxy.
Try my best. Excellent. So I've had the joy of being able to read your book, or an early version of your book, and but I'd love for you to have the opportunity to let our viewers and listeners know what Selling with Heart is all about.
Sure. So Selling with Heart is a book that helps anybody who needs to sell, and I think that's pretty much all of us, whether you're in a business yourself, whether you're working for somebody, or whether you've in fact been, selling for some time, but you're sitting back thinking, selling, for me, I say selling's not a dirty word, but then there are still some people out there who sort of cringe a little bit about the word selling or sales or what have you, but we all need to sell. We need to sell our ideas, our thoughts, our decisions, even on a personal level. You're trying to sell the idea of a family vacation and sell them on the idea of where you want to go and try and get them involved and agreements to come along as well. So the book is for anyone who just, that first thought has thought, selling. And it came about when I met some wonderful businesswomen on the Sunshine Coast, some lovely small business owners who said that, they're very passionate about their business, but when they think about standing up and talking to people and selling, they just cringe and have fears that come up for them. So I wanted to work the book through looking at some of the stereotypes and biases we have that we, in fact, ourselves may have developed over the years. And we've all perhaps had a bad experience with a salesperson, whether it might be a used car salesperson, that's sort of the classic that comes up, even real estate. Not always, but we've all had a little bit of a bad experience, and you've got to sit back and think, well, why are they the way? Why have they had? Why have they projected that upon you? There's a few reasons. Some of it comes out of desperation, but in my experience, when a person is trying to say something or do something that is really not natural for them, or they don't really believe in, or they're not really passionate about it, just falls flat, and it's really inauthentic, and it comes across, or can come across, very pushy and aggressive. And that's what I wanted to flip on its head. I really wanted people to understand that selling is a noble profession. Some people are professional salespeople, other people need to sell because of their, for their business. And that if we don't sell, we don't have a business. And I just want to see people succeed. And the success that I've had personally in the sales roles I've had, and then as a sales manager and a sales trainer, my success has been based on other people being successful. And often particularly in large corporates or businesses that follow a particular sales process or a particular sales training methodology, they're saying, say this, do that, write this, present that, and you'll get the sale. Well, it doesn't always work. And I've wondered over the years, well, that was meant to be the best sales training method, course in the world. Why hasn't it worked for everybody? And often it doesn't work because it has just asked someone to be something they're not. So I talk in the book about personality types and what's natural. And when you're trying to do something unnatural, it really doesn't work. And particularly in selling, it can be very stressful. You are put on the spot, you can be nervous, and when you're under that sort of level of stress, you tend to retreat to what's really natural for you and what feels right for you. And often it's it's the opposite to the way that you've been taught to be. So it's for everybody. It has a fair bit of it has a lot of my experience, but it has some stories and some case studies and some examples and lots of other little things that you can do to wrap around yourself as a salesperson or as a business owner that help you when you are talking to your customer, helps you to get to the point where you in fact have that conversation with your customer. Because if you don't position yourself and build your own credibility and your expertise and your brand up front, you may not get that opportunity to talk to a customer in the first place.
Absolutely. So it sounds like you've covered the holistic experience there of selling, from even attracting attention all the way through to converting the sale. That's awesome. Excellent. Now, can you tell us a little bit about where the seed for this book was first planted in your mind? Have you been wanting to become an author for some time, or was it a more recent thought for you?
Well, it's funny, when I was, a few weeks ago when I was trying to clean up my office, and I haven't really succeeded particularly well, but I did a little bit of tidying up and I uncovered a book. I don't know if I've got it handy. A book that I wrote when I was 12 years old. Roxy, I've never told you this.
No,
and I'm like, oh my God, I'd forgotten. Look, it was a project. It's probably something we had to do as an English assignment, but it was a little book that it was handwritten, and it had a hardcover and it had a spine. It had all the components of a real book. And it was hand illustrated, and it was a little fictional story about an accident in an opal mine in Cooper Pedy. And it was written through the eyes of a 12-year-old, as I was at the time. Yeah. And I'm like, oh my God, I've written a book. So this wasn't my first. Yeah. But I'd never given it another thought. However, so the story that I actually cover this in the book as well is that when I was about 22, 23, and I can't remember exactly how old I was living in Alice Springs at the time, and I went to see a clairvoyant, and she did tea leaf reading. And when you're young, you sort of look for all these you look at different ways of understanding life and the future and what have you. So quite an open mind. I sat there and had my tea leaves read. And as she was reading the tea leaves, we recorded the session on a cassette tape.
Yes, yeah.
You probably don't even know what they are, Roxy.
I do.
I don't have the tape anymore. I don't have anything to play it on anyway. So we recorded the session on a tape. And as the session went through, and she said some things that later on seemed to be correct. And there a couple of things are a little bit tragic. Not tragic to me personally, but some tragic things. So I don't need to cover that. But she did say, you're going to write a book. And I'm like, okay, at the time. And I'm like, well, what is it about? She says, I don't know what it's about, but I know you're going to write a book. And I had not thought about that until a couple of years ago. Now, it was June 2018. Zoe Sparks here on the Sunshine Coast put on the Shine Business Women Conference. And that was the first time I met you, Roxy.
Yes,
yes. Yeah. And look, one of the best conferences I've ever been to, and I've been to heaps of them. Most of the ones I've been to were sales and corporate and IT. This was a really great conference focused on women in business that wasn't really too woo-woo. It wasn't all about, there were some lovely things about aromatherapy and a couple of other things, but it was really solid business expertise And it was sort of some of the stuff that I'd never covered before in business, because this was about the woman, the businesswoman as a person. One of the sessions that was covered was the publishing journey, writing a book, and it was presented by Ocean Reeve from Ocean Reeve Publishing. And he stood up and I'm like, oh, okay. So I thought you had to get a grant or a publisher to actually endorse you to be able to write your book, and you had to be, you know, a well-known writer, and you had to be, or a celebrity to get that sort of attention. But he talked about the fact that there are lots of people who write books, and he assists people to bring the book to life. I thought, oh, okay, maybe I could write a book. What would I write a book about? And I parked the thought. I spoke to Ocean, and I got this card and made some inquiries, and I thought I'll just park that. It was really a few months, probably 3 or 4 months later, when I was at a networking of another women in business networking event, as I mentioned, where I met this woman who was very reluctant to stand up and talk about her business. And when she did, she says, I hate selling. I just can't sell myself. And I started to ask her questions about her business. And I said, what do you do? She says, I'm a beautician. I said, okay, what do you love about being a beautician? And she said, I love the way that I can transform a woman from the time she walks in the front door to my salon, have a treatment or whatever, eyelashes, makeup, etc. And as she walks out, she's a different person. She's transformed her mood, her day, maybe transformed her life for that day. And so this beautician was so passionate about what she does. And I said, you don't like selling, do you? She goes, no. And I said, well, you've just sold me.
Yeah.
And she said, what do you mean? I said, you're a beautician amongst thousands. I said, but I've never heard a beautician talk about the passion that you have and the desire you have to help transform a woman's life. And I said, where do you work? Where do you work? I want to come and see you. So that for me is like, well, that's what selling is. It's about understanding the value that you offer your clients to help them get an outcome. Now, a beautician offers a range of different services. And as a customer, not every service is of value to me. But if the beautician gets to know me and understands what she can do that is of value, then she will understand what that will mean for me. So I know that's a very simple example as a beautician. That woman who walks in, who's just dropped off her kids and she's harried, she's maybe had a fight with her husband, whatever it might be, that maybe she just needs that time out to sit in the salon and talk to someone. That's of value to her. She doesn't necessarily need to come in and get her eyelashes done or what have you. So that beautician's doesn't have to sell all her services. She doesn't actually have to sell anything. She just has to ask her customer about her life and how she can be of service. So I thought, you know what, that's what I've always thought selling was. I've never thought selling was you've got to sell something, you've got to push it down someone's throat, you've got to make them sign, you've got to close the sale. That's the way I've had to work, but I've never really believed that that's the way it should be. And so I wanted to really get the message out to people that sure, we have to sell, but don't sell. Be of service.
Yeah.
Show that you care, use your heart, be authentic in a very natural way, and get a human to human connection so that you can build trust within your customers so that they can keep coming back to you and they become your raving fans, your loyal advocates, and they'll tell all their friends about how good you are. So that's where I thought I need to put all of that into a book, because I want every woman and man, it doesn't have to be just a woman in business who doesn't think that they can sell or are really afraid of selling, to understand that you don't need to sell, you need to be of service.
Excellent. No, that's great. And I mean, all of this was already within you. This is your lived experience, like your personal journey. All of this was ready just for you to start writing. But tell me about the writing process, because, you know, we often have this incredible idea of becoming an author, but then, you know, the realization of how much work goes into it does set in. So tell us about your writing journey and what that process was like for you.
I love what you said there when you said the realization of how much work it is going to be. And I think that's what puts people off the most.
Yeah.
They think, I don't have time to sit down and write, or I don't have it in me. And excuse me. When I started writing, it flowed freely. What I tried to do first was to come up with a bit of a plan. And I'm a great planner, but I'm not really good at structure, if that makes sense. Maybe the two and two don't necessarily go together. So I wrote and I wrote and I wrote and I wrote and I wrote. And then I got tired and I stopped. And it was hard to get started again. Yeah. So some of the advice that, and I did work back through Ocean Reeve, and you know, he was a great mentor in terms of not doing the writing for me, but how to approach the writing and the mindset behind writing. And that the best advice was to write something every day. And I didn't necessarily follow that advice. And I sort of course I wished I did, because I wrote, parked it, got busy, different priorities, got back to it. And then I found I could write. I mean, spelling and grammar and structuring. And so, you know, I have the ability. I think I must have listened at school. That wasn't the issue. The issue, some of the things that came up for me, and I even write about it a little bit in the book, and that is, what am I doing? I'm not an expert. No one's going to read this. I'm being indulgent. No, there's no market for this. Why would I bother? No one's going to buy my book. Oh my God, all that self-doubt, being an imposter, thinking I was an imposter, that imposter syndrome, that all came up. It came up several times, and I had to slap myself down and keep going. And I remember having a couple of discussions with you, Roxy, and you said, no, it's okay, keep going. Ocean was saying the same. And then I also guess had my family saying, my kids, teenage kids, they're a bit cynical, and they said, you can't write a book, Mum. What are you doing?
That's helpful.
Yeah, love it, right? What are you doing? You know, you're not an author. What are you? And I'm like, yeah, Mum, it's another project that you start and you're not going to finish. You know, so there are a lot of things that come out. But you know what? The more they said that to me, the more that I said, you just watch me.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it could go either way, can't it? I'm glad it went that way.
Just watch me. And I thought, I've got to prove to you that you're never too old. Whether you're a teenager or anybody, you're never too old. You can start something. Everybody's got a book in them. Everybody has expertise. And putting a bit of, I guess, some of my own story and background to the way I approach things was really interesting. And I was like, oh my God, I'm generally a very private person. And some of the stuff that came out, I'm like, oh my God, it's sort of, oh, okay. Hope I don't upset anyone from my childhood over some of the couple of little stories, not too much that I haven't developed. So approaching the writing process, once I put down a manuscript and I sent it off to be appraised, a whole bunch of stuff came back to me and sort of went, oh, okay, it's all too hard. I think I'll just throw it away. And I had to really pull myself back out and say, no. That feedback was amazing. That feedback came from a place of, you know, concern and care to be able to take that manuscript. I sort of threw it in a book bucket, stirred it all up, and I had to pull bits out of it. I had to chuck some of it away, pull bits out, and then expand so that the feedback came back. This bit's really, really good. You're hitting the mark. Expand on that. This bit over here, maybe not so relevant. You need to either reposition it, or you might just, you know, decide to take it out. And some of the technicalities around writing. So for me, being nonfiction, I made reference to companies and brands and programs and things that I had experienced along the way that I needed to technically reference.
Yes. Yeah.
And I had no clue how to reference things. Back when I was at school and studying, we couldn't just Google it and reference it online. It was something that you had read in a book, and you had to go to that level of detail. So things are a little bit different. So the technicalities I had to learn of what it meant to put a book together. But a lot of the motivation stuff was really key. It could very easily have been put on the shelf. And I would say, and Roxy, you may have even come across other aspiring authors that, in fact, might have even had something on the shelf that's been sitting there for 5-10 years.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And pulling it out and understanding that people need to hear a story, or they need to hear the message, or whatever it is a really key part of this whole process.
Excellent. No, that's great. And I'd love to take you back to, you mentioned you were able to weave a few personal experiences into your book, and they've just popped in out of nowhere, like you're obviously on topic, and then you've gone, oh, that's where that's come from. So yeah, tell us, if you're comfortable with, about the personal journey and the personal evolution that you went through while creating Selling with Heart.
Yeah, it brought up a lot of memories, actually. Because I wanted to start the book by saying, well, I think I've been a salesperson all my life. And I thought, well, how can I really explain that? Yes, my whole career has been in selling. But you know what, as a kid, I think I might have been a bit of an entrepreneur. Oh, well, just some memories started flooding back. And I actually remember way back being a little kid. And I used to have a wonderful almond tree in my backyard. And I used to climb in springtime when the blossoms came out. I'd climb the tree, cut the blossoms, put them together in a little posy and take them around to the neighbours and sell them. And the memory came flooding back, because I can remember going so far up the tree, and I was only really little, 6 or 7 years old, and I got stuck. I wasn't really stuck, but I'm like, oh my God, now I have to get down. And I was really scared. So I kept yelling out for my older brother, and he came and got me down. So that became a really vivid memory. And then it was just the other day, this is not in the book, but it was just the other day, and I thought, it actually goes back even further. And I can remember, my mother was an Avon lady.
Yeah.
And my mum left the family when I was 5 years old. So this memory was from prior to 5 years old. And I used to toddle along next to her, walking the neighbourhood, knocking on doors, ding dong, Avon lady. And I can vaguely remember some of that. So I guess I saw that as an example. I sold my almond blossoms. Later on, I used to bake things and sell them. And I used to also, I guess I was always motivated by that, that extrinsic reward of money. We all love money. We all have to have money. And I was the youngest of 4 kids, so there wasn't a huge amount to go around. I loved to do jobs and get pocket money. And so you knock on the door, and as we used to call it in those days, bobs for jobs. And the cute little girl, hey, can I come and walk your dog, and you can pay me some money, and all those sorts of things that you do. So there's reasons to sell, but there's also a natural, I guess, if you see that example, you've always grown up with it. I guess it was there from the beginning. The other thing that sort of came up as I remembered those things was, so my mum did decide to leave the family when I was 5, and it was a bit of a tough time. And my father was a musician, so he had a pretty interesting lifestyle, and maybe that was part of it all. But he remarried twice more, and I had stepmothers. And, I just really wanted to be accepted and loved unconditionally from my stepmother as a mother would. And I was always a really good girl. I always did well at school. I behaved well. I helped around the house. I did everything I could for approval. And so I didn't like being rejected or being told, no, I couldn't do something, or I wasn't good enough. I would do everything I could to avoid that. And so I remembered, I took those thoughts and thought about selling, and that a lot of people come to me and say they fear selling, and they fear that rejection, that sometimes you get rejection, but it's not personal rejection. When you're trying to sell something, the customer says no, and you take it as a personal rejection, it can be quite emotional and it can really play to the fears. And, I felt that too, but it played to my fears a little more deeply, in that I never wanted to be rejected as a kid, because I guess, if I got really emotional about it, I could say, maybe my mother rejected me or rejected the family and she left. And so, gosh, if I was to talk to a psychologist, we could get really deep into this, but yeah, fine. Fine. But for other people who have those fears, the fears can come from somewhere else. Maybe nothing to do with selling, maybe nothing to do with the product, but fears can sometimes come from a whole bunch of other stuff that have got nothing to do with getting up and talking to people and selling.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. And so do you feel like, oh, I'm getting croaky. Excuse me.
You feel like me.
Do you feel like, you know, you were able to become a lot more congruent in your messaging and what it is that you're wanting to share with the world through the process of writing your book? I mean, you've managed to pull together, you know, all of your professional expertise and your lived experience and have those beautiful moments where, you know, these memories have dropped in for you. Do you feel like you've emerged from this, you know, not only as an author, but as someone who's a lot more clear on what it is that you're doing in your business?
Oh, gosh, without a doubt. So alongside the writing, I was also working out what I was doing in my business as a sales enablement consultant coach. Because it was 3 years ago when I left Sydney out of the corporate world and came to the coast. I've been really looking for, well, you know, I'm not going to stop. I wasn't about to retire or anything like that. I want to be out there doing what I do best and helping people, because that's what if you ask anybody in business, why did you go into business? They said it's to help people do X.
Yeah.
Well, what is it I wanted to help people do? There's lots of things I could help them with, but ultimately, what is it I wanted them to gain through working with me? And alongside the writing and so my business, as I was building my business, it was some of the practical parts of what is my product, what is my service, what is my offering, as you said, what is the message? Because I know I can do a whole bunch of things, but to niche it right down and to be very, very specific about what outcome I could get for people, it came down to giving people confidence to sell. Now, if you come down to that level of detail, all of the, you know, all this stuff that I can do with them gives them the confidence. Now, if someone has the confidence to sell, then they're going to be better at it. And so they get the outcome that they want from it. So that message distilled right down to that level. And I didn't want the message Selling with Heart to be a very woo-woo, you know, really spiritual. That's just not me. I love that. And I have lots of friends who are just beautiful and I love spending time with them. That's just not me. And I've worked out that's just not me. I'm very practical. I want to give someone the confidence, which really comes from being prepared, having skills, having personal brand, having a whole bunch of things in place. That confidence, a bit like I needed the confidence to find my message, I want people to get the confidence to find their message in how they sell for their business, or if they're working for somebody else. And the confidence to do it in a way that feels right for them. The confidence to understand their natural, I call them superpowers, natural personality. And I work I tend to use a base with Myers-Briggs, which is a psychometric assessment that looks at the natural personality style that you have when you're born. You can develop behaviors on top of that, but what you're born with and what feels right for you. So that's how, to answer the question, my business now, and that's really only been the last couple of months, that I know who I need to be working with now. I know who my ideal client is. I go in there with the thin edge of confidence being what I provide, but ultimately the outcome I get for them, whether they're working for a large corporate or for themselves, what they get from that through coaching and mentoring has, you know, the basis in using your heart-led values to sell from a place of service.
Awesome. No, that's great. I always get a buzz when I hear how books and the book writing journey has really given that clarity to people. So yeah, congratulations. Now take us back to the moment where you got to see the first physical copy of your book in your hand. So even the proof, what was it like to receive that and to be able to hold it and see that tangible object that you've put so much heart and energy into?
Well, there were sort of two pivotal moments. One was quite a few months ago, before things were even finished, when we came up with the cover design, the one copy. So it was more that cover design. My microphone back on. And with software these days, when you come up with a cover design, you turn it into on screen into a 3D book. And through Ocean Reeve and their graphics guys, it was a book, but it also had mobile phones. So it sort of said, well, you can get the book on Audible as well. That was like, oh my God, it's real. It was as real to me on screen as that one copy is in my hand. That's when I'm like, oh my God, it's all real. And we decided to go with my my picture on the cover, and that was like, oh my God, when I go into a bookshop and I look at business books, they don't have a person on the cover. But we discussed it and thought, well, this whole book is me in a book. So why not have me on the cover? And this is the new way. The boring old business books that have graphs and arrows and dollar signs and all that sort of stuff, that is so last century. In the 21st century, when we're working with human to human connection in selling, well, then they need to connect with this human. and the book was about that. I mean, I talk about, it's not B2C or B2B, it's H2H. And that's my sort of, I lead with H2H. And right now, you know, human connection in any way, shape or form is what we're all craving through tough times. Even connecting like this online is really, really important. If we can't be face to face, this is the next very best thing. And then from there, the next very best thing is talking to someone on the phone, because we know that texting them and messaging, that's further down the rung. But then there are robots now that are starting to creep into these processes, and chatbots and all those sorts of things that, you know, as much eye to eye, real to real as we can get online, it's really important. So back to the question, the on-screen cover was the real moment for me, and that became a real driving force. I talked about, you know, motivation and getting back on to writing. Oh my God, I've got a cover and I've got a title, and I jumped the gun a little bit and got it out there. And I was a little bit naughty. I was meant to save it from a marketing perspective. I got it out there. So once I put it out there and the whole world knew that I was writing this book called Selling with Heart, I'm like, I can't stop now.
Yeah.
My integrity will be shot if I park it. I had to just go with it. Getting this in my hand, it wasn't I've only got the proof. I think as soon as I get that full box of books, because I've just had a little delay in printing, but in a couple of days time, I'm going to get a whole box of books. I think when I open that box, then it's just going to go, oh my God, this is all happening.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd love to talk more about to the human connection. And obviously, given the times that we're in right now, your book launch event was actually impacted by the lovely social distancing regulations that we have right now. But you didn't let that stop you by any means, did you? I'd love for you to tell our viewers and listeners what you were able to create to innovate in that space.
Yeah, good. It's very fresh in my mind, of course. I had great plans of having this really funky, gorgeous party at Pier 33. I love a good party. I like music, I like dancing, I like cocktails and dressing up. And I had, I planned the party. It was all booked. I started to sell tickets to it. I had some VIPs. I had some people that had booked airfares to fly up from Sydney. It was all happening. And then, of course, COVID-19 came up. And it was pretty clear that wasn't going to happen. So I decided to have an online launch event. And I worked through with a friend how to do that via Zoom webinar, which is a little bit slightly different from this Zoom. And then it was pretty clear that even though I've worked in technology all my life, I'm not a technical person, and I've always had technicians handy to help me. It became very clear as the date got closer and closer that I wasn't going to actually I couldn't even call in a videographer or anyone into my house to help me. It was going to be me. And so I decided to go with Zoom, just the normal meeting Zoom. So prior to that, I thought, is this the right time to launch a book about selling when so many people are, losing their job, don't have a job, businesses are falling over, people don't want to be insincere in selling or trying to push anything. And I had lots of conversations, and I thought, if I don't launch it now, when is it going to be launched? It was a little bit personal in that it didn't worry me whether I launched it to one person or 50. I needed, for me personally, I needed the process to happen. But I also thought about, well, my message hasn't changed from 20 years ago to 2 years ago when I started this process to today. And that is, you're not selling for selfish reasons. You still need, if you have a business and you have a product or a service that can help somebody right now, you need to continue to work and come from that place of service and passion and sincerity, and show some substance. Because if you're using your heart and you're connecting with them and you understand that this is something that can help them right now, it's going to help them, but it's also going to help you keep your business alive and keep your family fed. And the more that the wheels of business all over the world, the more that we can keep businesses running and the economy flowing right now, number one, we're going to save more jobs, we're going to save more people, and that once we come out of this, we've got a solid platform from which to rise even further. And during the book launch, I had some amazing questions from people. Now, on the book, before I go into that, the book launch ended up with a huge amount of people online.
I was going to say, you were happy to have one, and I think you did end up with more than 50. Was it, what did you do a head?
Yeah, pretty much. It was a bit hard to count all the people on screen, but I know how many people pre-registered, and then I know that a whole bunch of people jumped on, because I basically in the end just said, Zoom link, go for it, love to have you, bring a glass to the table. Not everybody turned on their video. There were some people in their jammies, they're all in their comfort of their home, and that's the beauty of it, right? I was having fun. Zoe Sparks helped as MC. Ocean Reeve came on as special guest, and I know you were on there as well, Roxy. But it was a celebration. It was a way to show a beacon of hope that it is okay to continue to run your business. It is, it's how you do it. It's how you sell. It's having the connection. It's using your heart-led values, and it's the messages that are all in here anyway are exactly the messages that we need right now. I'm not pushing my book. I'm pushing I'm not pushing anything. I'm sharing the message so that people can use that message in a way that works for them. And, my heart bleeds for those that are more severely affected than others at the moment. But the messages came through thick and fast. We had a little bit of interaction. I mean, I'd love to have had 50 people interacting on the whole call, but we had to sort of say, mute for the moment. And at an appropriate time, we unmuted and videos came on, and everyone had a bit of a giggle and a glass. And then through the chat, we had some great questions as well. And so people got to hear, right now, how do we do this? Right now, is it okay? People sometimes, if we're leading, you're leading the way with getting people's messages out. I'm hoping to lead the way to say, just very naturally be of service. And if you can't transact right now, what you can do is you can reach out, you can pick up the phone, you can have a Zoom call like this, and you can offer whatever you can to help your customer, or even those potential customers that are out there, and say, I'm not here to be anything but a beacon of hope, someone who can lead the way to help businesses survive so that they're in a position to completely thrive and sprout new wings, and also make those changes. So I made the change. I like a party, but I had a party online, and I tell you what, I was having the greatest time, and I was in a room on my own, my lights and my whiteboard and my camera, and I was almost dancing on the spot. It was actually quite fun. I mean, that's the way that if I was able, I enjoyed that so much that I want to do more of that.
Yeah.
I don't, well, maybe launch more books, but certainly if anyone's had any doubts about bringing their business online and how you can still do that, I think I've just, for my personally, I think I've just completely cast all doubts aside that you can do it, and you can do it really well.
Excellent. Oh, that's awesome. And all of that from a book launch. That's incredible.
Yeah, and I recorded it too. So I just put it up on YouTube last night, sent a bit of a message out to say, if you weren't able to make it, and there were a few people that just couldn't log in at that time. And I had people, people I've worked with in the States and India and a couple in Singapore. The time zone just sort of didn't work for them. So it's out there on YouTube. I've had a few great messages. Look, the support I've had has just been incredible. It's blown me away, actually. Lots of people I've worked with in the past, they're proud of me, and I'm proud of me now too. And in particular, one particular woman who was my boss a few years ago, she's just like, oh my God, this is just amazing. And so she's now an advocate, saying she's still in learning and development in a large corporate who deals with a lot of salespeople. Yeah. She's saying, guys, you've got to read this. So I'm hoping it's going to be on Amazon really, really soon, so that I can, spread things on a global scale.
Absolutely. And you're building the foundations now for when we can emerge from the situation we're in now. Like, Kym, you're going to be on stages all over the place, I imagine.
Well, actually, on that point, I mean, that's certainly something I really have in my vision and plan to do. And I think it's going to be a while before people are traveling all around the world. Even when we come out of it, I think there's going to be a time where it's going to be still a little bit sensitive, that it's not about getting on stages in front of 1,000 people. It's more of recording the message, or having the 1,000 people on a webinar on a system like this, where there is a chat and there is a moderator. I think there's going to be more of that. So whether it's on traveling to New York to a sales conference, or whether it's beaming in live to something, it doesn't matter. It's the opportunity for me to give people the license to be their authentic self in selling and in business is really what I want people to hear.
That's so awesome. I'm getting tingles. Thanks, Kym. Amazing. And so I would like to see if, having just freshly emerged from the journey and being able to call yourself an author, what would be maybe the top tip that you would give to those aspiring authors who are looking to maybe start the journey or pick up a journey that they may have started and, like you said, have chucked in the bookshelf for a while?
Well, there's two things. I think just do it. But number two, have someone to guide you along the way in the process, and to help with motivation. And I'm going to say accountability, but that's a bit of a strong word. There's accountability, but there's also just support and guidance that gives you the confidence and the motivation, and picks you up when you're down, and gives you perhaps some practical advice and objective feedback. You've got to sometimes go, oh, okay, I needed to hear that. Yeah. So that's not just one thing, that's a couple of things, but just do it. You won't be sorry. You can invest. There's two things you can invest in it: time and money. If you need to invest the money in the process, then be fairly clear about what that, how you're going to get a return on that investment. Now, for some people, their return on investment is not necessarily that you're going to sell thousands of books. That return on investment could be that the book leads to a lot of other things. It's a tool to be able to spread the word. It's a tool to help you in your business, in the offering that you have. Or it could be, for some people, it's simply a cathartic thing to get something off their chest.
Yeah.
Things they want to say. And so investing the money to do that can be the return that they want in the process. You know, I know that there's a few authors that have recently, a couple of their books that I've picked up, where they've told the story of some incredible hardship and the ways that they've overcome that and how they've emerged from the other side. And that's a message that resonates with a lot of other people who may have gone through something similar. So for the person who's written the book, that's been the biggest healing process for them. And if I think about what, if anything, has this healed for me, you know what, to a small extent, and I'm thankful I don't have, you know, a tragic story. I don't. But for me, a little bit of what I needed to come to terms with was remembering some of those silly things from childhood. And, you know, that's what's made me or taught me or along the way, and it's given me a lot of independence. So what do you gain from writing the book? If you're really sure that of what that is, then just do it. And don't worry about the investment of money. That you don't have to necessarily spend a lot of money to get the book off the ground. I'm not saying that at all. You can, absolutely. And you know, if you are looking at this,
for you to share some details on how people can get hold of a copy of Selling with Heart and really dive into the message that you've got in the book.
Yeah, thanks, Roxy. My website, which is www.kymcousins.com. I don't know if you can see on my sign behind me.
K-Y-M.
K-Y-M-C-O-U-S. So Kym with a Y and Cousins as in your family cousins, easy, just .com. My website there, you can purchase the book on the website, and I will send it to you basically anywhere in the world. And I've still got a few that are coming with the bookmark, and also for the first 100, I haven't hit 100 yet. There is a certificate of authenticity where each book is numbered up to 100, so that in years to come, you can say, well, I had one of the first 100 books written by Kym Cousins.
When Kym's on the stage with Tim Robbins and all those awesome people, and Tony Robbins, sorry, not Tim Robbins, he's the PE guy. Sorry. Tony Robbins. You know, you were among the first to get in on the action, so that's awesome.
Why not? Well, you know, you've got to have big, hairy, audacious goals, don't you?
That's right. Awesome. Excellent. Well, thank you again so much for your time, Kym, and for sharing your journey with us all today.
Thank you, Roxy. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, and thank you, everybody, for listening.
Wonderful. Thank you.